Uh, this must be, for me personally, maybe the 15th or 20th time since 2014 that we have come here for similar reasons. It started, I still remember, at the turn of 2014 with what had happened to journalists in Kashmir. And I think a lot of our fraternity at that point of time tended to think that this was a problem that happened somewhere far away outside Delhi. Which is one reason I'd like to sort of just request some of you who are the first time that it is good to see that there are journalists out in number. But I think we also have to learn to appreciate that when things go wrong, the solidarity of the profession to have other journalists stand by with you is of enormous help. It is just to remind you that similar incidents will happen to other journalists who may not have the same ability to connect in the larger network of journalism, that it is our duty still to turn out and stand beside them whenever that happens. That is just a reminder. And I think apart from that, I just want to take 5 minutes for us, especially at Caravan. This is a grim reminder of an incident that happened during the Delhi violence, which involved 3 journalists, one a female reporter who was harassed and molested, the Muslim journalist, same person who happened to be in Burari just 3 days ago, was roughed up. The Sikh journalist at that point of time was left alone. The question of identity, the question of gender, the question of how journalists are to be treated is at the heart of what we are discussing. And we already know that this government has a larger problem with journalism. It does not want us to do journalism that is critical of the government. This is part of that. The second is that the Hindutva right wing has a problem with gender. Love jihad is not only an attack, a means of attacking Muslims, which it clearly is. It is also a way of controlling freedom of independence of women to keep a scrutiny on where they are, who they are with, what they are doing by people within their own community. This is a long-standing problem. It gets manifested in this incident. We saw it happen during the Delhi violence with our own reporter, that the idea that women should stand up, ask questions, to assert their independence, to work as journalists is anathema to the Hindutva right. The third and perhaps the most problematic aspect of all this is that Muslims are being singled out. This is not just to do with journalism. It is a simple fact. We have to tie this to what is happening in Karnataka. The hijab row is not about religion, it is about the denial of access to education. The halal meat row is not about religion, it is about a denial to livelihood. It is the same thing that is happening with the checking of identity cards. It is simply an assertion of the fact that Muslims should not be working as journalists in this country. In fact, Muslims should not be working at all except at the mercy or the behest of the right or the people who run the government today. All of this is manifest, all of it is problematic, and the last thing that comes up is the recurring nature of the response of the Delhi police. It does not begin today. I will remind you that this was the same Delhi police with previous administrations in '84 stood by and abetted congressmen when they slaughtered Sikhs in the street. This is the same Delhi police that in the Delhi violence stood by, abetted BJP leaders and mobs that actually ran rampage. It is the same Delhi police that today actually will take note of a hate speech without yet explaining how that event was allowed to go ahead. At the same time, because it needs to balance and show the people who are its direct masters, because the police is not acting as a constitutional authority, it is an appendage of the BJP that reports directly to Amit Shah, the Delhi police, and acts in that manner, is that there is an FIR filed against Article 14 over an innocuous tweet as well. There is no proper balance between what those men like Narasimhan, the people who were carrying out that hate speech were doing, and to file an FIR in the same context, in the same way against a news organization is to go back and show that we've done our job as you wanted us to do. Even though there is no case, we will pursue it. Even though there is no case made out in Delhi violence, we will go after Umar Khalid or 20 others that I can name here. But this is another reality that we have to deal with. In the face of this, we can only just remember that we have to keep doing our jobs. I can only just point out, and I think appreciate the courage of young journalists who are today going out day after day, despite the threats, despite the apprehension and fears of working in an environment that I, having worked in this profession for 25, 30 years, have never before experienced this kind of threat. We have faced threats in terms of our reportage, but to face threats from the public, from politicians, from people standing beside us on a daily, regular basis, to be called out as anti-nationals or people who are criminals for doing what is our job, that is to question what is going wrong, I think it takes great courage, and I'm glad that people continue to do that. It is essential that we keep doing that. Thank you.